Hello everyone. Today I am making something out of this sweet and russet potatoes, and I will be adding Jimmy Dean. So not quite so, healthy. Alright, so this is already washed. I'm getting ready to cut that up, but in the meantime I'm going to open up my pack of Country Mile Jimmy Dean and crumble it up and start cooking it in the pan. So what I like to do is cut the end off. And it doesn't usually cut all the way off. See, it's kind of stuck there. So I'm gonna push this out of, and if you slice this in slices like for biscuits, it's best to have it partially frozen. It cuts much easier. I hate those ends. Aren't they a pain in the butt? I think they would come up with something better by now. Alright, and then what I do is I slice it like that. Okay, and then just peel back. And that way, you know, it just comes out easier for me. I do have something I'm cutting on over here, but trying to show you in front of the camera without twisting it around too much. And then the other end always comes out a little bit better, a little bit cleaner than that one. So I'm going to set that down, plop that down, see if I've got anything to scrape out of here. Not really much, because that end, I guess it might be easier to just cut it in half from now on. That way you can pull each end off like I did the one. Alright, throw that away. Alright, I like to chop it up with a wooden spatula rather than my little chopper thing, because I just don't want raw sausage all up in the little grooves of that chopper. To me it's harder to wash than this. And I don't need them to be tiny little pieces right now anyway. Just want good sized pieces. I like to pre-cook this before I try sticking it in the oven with my, sorry, my oven is preheated. It's on 425 for all the potatoes. You hear that, husband? Sounds like something's cooking, don't it? We have us a little parrot going on. Alright, so I'm going to get this all browned up and I'll be back. But
hello everybody. On this week's Top Chef, we have contestant Lisa working very hard on something I don't recognize.
uh-oh. It's a healthy breakfast hash that I have managed to make unhealthy. Alright, so instead of adding olive oil to our bowl here, that's what we're going to use our sausage grease for. Back up a little bit. So I have added diced onion and garlic in here. I'm sure it would cook in the oven, but I just want to soften it up a little bit just to be certain. Since it's an egg dish, I definitely don't want any uncooked garlics to come out of the oven. I've diced up all the potatoes and shredded, well, I just sort of peeled off some of the Brussels sprouts, and then the others I just cut what was left. And there's nothing else in that bowl but russet potatoes, sweet potato, and Brussels sprouts for now. And there's nothing in this pan except sausage, onion, and fresh garlic. I will not be adding any other salt or seasoning because this is essentially a low blood pressure dish minus the sausage. And we'll be putting eggs and cheese on it. And that's going to be it. It's going to get baked in the oven. The recipe does call for bell pepper, which I didn't have any, but I didn't mind that, not having that. Alright, so I think that's good enough. The onions don't have to be fully cooked. I just wanted to make sure they were softened up enough to where when they went in the oven, they were not going to. So I think it's going to be easier for me to actually add the bowl to the pan instead of the pan to the bowl. So that's what I'm going to do. And I want to toss them together so that everything has a little bit of that sausage grease on it, so that they'll cook better. Just toss it the best you can. I mean, this is going to go on a non-stick foil lined sheet pan. I think it's going to have to go on 2 of them, but I do have a larger one that might work. I don't know yet, so. Okay, I lied. I am going to add some black pepper. And I think maybe a little sage if I had. Yes, I do have sage. I think I'm going to add a little sage as well. Not too much, but just a... Sometimes I use the sage sausage, and since this was country mild, I'm just going to add that little bit of sage to it, and that's all I'm going to add. That just went in the oven. In the meantime, I am going to shred some Gruyère cheese. Recipe calls for Swiss, but this is a good substitute, and I'm just going to use it. So we are going to take it out and toss it around a little bit. If you've never had Brussels sprouts where they char up and the leaves turn black and crispy, they're so good. It tastes like they're deep fried, and they're not. Plus, I also want to get a scope on how much longer my potatoes might need to cook, so that we can know when to add our eggs, because our eggs need at least 7 minutes to cook. And until I found this recipe, I had never baked eggs like that before. And we discovered that we actually really like them. So maybe you'll discover something new as well. Alright, I can't tell about those potatoes, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and make my wells for my eggs anyway. So I'm making 5 eggs. So you make a little well to give it space, you know. It's going to cook inside there, okay? Sometimes my husband will eat an egg and sometimes not, so my daughter and I will definitely eat 2 each. And if there's an extra one, she'll have it for breakfast tomorrow. Okay, so there's 2. One in the center. Here. It just kind of holds it intact so it don't run everywhere, and it gives it a way to cook. Because I feel sure these potatoes are probably done enough to go ahead and put the eggs in, because we like our eggs, well, they like their eggs done, and I can take mine either way. So what I'm going to do is poke this knife down in one of the larger ones. Okay, it's got a slight resistance, so it's not quite done, but it is close. And I do believe it will be done when the eggs are done. And then when the whole thing comes out, we will top it with cheese. So just drop it down in here, or crack it into the hole. A piece of shell just fell out of that one. So we're gonna go back in the oven for about at least 7 minutes. We'll check it and see. Okay, I notice our eggs are white on top, so let's check them. See how pretty they are when they're baked? So perfect looking. Best way to check the yolk without piercing it or do anything. All right, those are definitely done. Now we're going to just sprinkle on our cheese. Since this is an easy melting cheese, this Gruyere melts really easily. So I didn't see the necessity of keeping it in the oven. It will just melt right on top. And dinner will be done. Yes, we're having this for dinner. All right, that's dinner. I'll put her on a plate. Daddy, eat.
On my way.